That number on your paycheck. That savings goal you've been working toward for 10 years. That dream of buying a house, funding your retirement, or just getting ahead. Why does it feel like the finish line is moving faster than you can run? You're doing everything right. You work hard. You save your money. But every time you look up, your grocery bill gives you a small heart attack. The car you want costs 30% more than it did 3 years ago. And the housing market, forget about it. It's like you're on a treadmill, running as hard as you can, just to stay in the same place. Meanwhile, you turn on the news and they tell you inflation is cooling. They tell you the goal is 2% or 3%. You look at your bank account, you look at your rent statement, and you know deep down that you are being lied to. But the lie is bigger than you think. You've been told that inflation is just prices going up. That's the kindergarten explanation. Today, you're going to get the real story. You're going to learn that inflation isn't an economic weather pattern. It's not an accident. It is a system. It is a tool. It is the single most effective and most invisible mechanism for transferring your hard work, your time, and your wealth to a very small group of people at the top. What you are about to learn isn't just economics. It's the hidden rule book for the game of money. And if you don't know the rules, you are guaranteed to lose. So let's tear down the official story, the story they teach in every Econ 101 textbook. Ask any expert why inflation happens, and they'll give you two convenient excuses. The first one is demand pull inflation. This is the stimulus check story. The idea is that the government gave everyone a bunch of money during the pandemic. Everyone got excited, and we all tried to buy the same Peloton, the same lumber for our new deck, and the same used car. Too much money chasing too few goods. The sellers, seeing this line of desperate buyers, just jacked up the prices. It's our fault for wanting to buy too much. That's story number one. The second story is cost push inflation. This is the Putin's price hike story. The idea here is that a war in Ukraine, or a broken supply chain in China, or a drought in Brazil makes the raw materials more expensive. The price of oil goes up. The price of wheat goes up. The cost of shipping a container goes up. The corporation, to protect its profits, has no choice but to push that extra cost onto you, the consumer. The price of your gas, your bread, your Amazon delivery, it all goes up. Again, not their fault. It's some external, unpredictable crisis. These two explanations are neat. They're logical. And they are, to some degree, true. They are the symptoms. They are the accelerants. But they are not the cause. They are the convenient narratives that hide the real engine. Think about it. If a bad harvest makes the price of corn go up, why doesn't the price of laptops go down as people spend more on food? If demand for cars explodes, why doesn't the price of movie tickets fall? Why, for the last 50 years, does the entire ocean of prices seem to rise, all at once, in one continuous direction? Why does it never, ever go back down? To answer that, you have to listen to the man who said it best, Milton Friedman. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. He meant that you can't have a fire without fuel. You can have demand. You can have supply shocks. But you cannot have sustained economy-wide inflation unless there is one thing: a continuous, systematic expansion of the money supply. The real question isn't why are prices going up. The real question is, where is all this new money coming from? And here is the first secret. It is not coming from a giant printing press at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. That's a rounding error. In our modern world, money is created, digitally, out of thin air. And it's done in two primary ways. The first is right at your local bank. It's called the fractional reserve banking system. When you deposit your $1,000 paycheck, the bank doesn't just put your money in a vault. The law only requires them to keep a tiny fraction of it, say 10% or $100. The other $900, they immediately loan it out. Let's say they loan it to your neighbor to buy a couch. Your neighbor pays the furniture store. What does the furniture store do? It deposits that $900 in its bank. What does that bank do? It keeps 10%, $90, and loans out the other $810. That $810 is deposited and $729 is loaned out. And on and on. Your initial $1,000 deposit has just created thousands of new dollars in the economy. Dollars that did not exist before. Every time a car loan is signed, every time a mortgage is approved, every time you swipe your credit card, new money is being digitally willed into existence. But that's just the opening act. The main event is the partnership between the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve. This is the big one. The U.S. government spends colossally more money than it collects in taxes. We're talking trillions of dollars in deficits year after year. To fund this overspending, to pay for the military, for social programs, for interest on its existing debt, the Treasury Department has to borrow. It does this by issuing IOUs, which we call Treasury bonds. Lend us $1 trillion and we'll pay you back with interest. Now, who has that kind of money to lend? Well, some of it is bought by other countries or by pension funds. But the buyer of last resort, the biggest player in the game, is the Federal Reserve. And here is the magic trick. When the Fed buys these bonds from the government, it doesn't use money it has saved up. It doesn't have a savings account. It creates the money with a keystroke. It digitally credits the government's bank account with $1 trillion new dollars, and in exchange, it gets $1 trillion in bonds added to its balance sheet. This process has a fancy, boring name, Quantitative Easing, or QE. It's nothing more than the modern, sophisticated version of firing up the printing press. It's the government financing its deficits by creating new money out of thin air. This is the fire hose. This is the fuel for the fire. Now we get to the heart of the matter, the part they will never ever talk about on TV. This is the secret that explains why inequality is skyrocketing. It was discovered by an 18th century economist named Richard Cantillon, and it's called the Cantillon Effect. Cantillon's genius insight was this: when new money is injected into an economy, it is not distributed fairly. It doesn't rain down on everyone equally like a gentle mist. No. It's injected at specific points, like a fire hose. And whoever is standing closest to that fire hose gets a massive, unearned advantage. Who is closest to the fire hose? The government and the Fed. And who do they give the money to first? The primary dealers, the biggest banks on Wall Street, the defense contractors, the major corporations getting government contracts, private equity firms. These groups are the first to receive the brand new, freshly created dollars and trillions. What do they do with this new money? Do they go buy milk and eggs? No. They buy assets. They get this fresh, clean money before the rest of the economy has even realized it exists. Before any prices have had a chance to rise. They take these new money trillions and they buy stocks. They buy corporate bonds. They buy entire apartment complexes in Austin, Miami, and Phoenix. They buy fine art and vineyards. And what happens when trillions of new dollars suddenly chase a fixed number of assets? The price of those assets goes stratospheric. This is not a bug. This is the feature. This is why your 401k and the stock market can hit all-time highs while Main Street is completely broke. The asset owners are getting the new money first. Now, that money slowly begins to trickle. The big banks pay their executives massive bonuses. The defense contractor pays its engineers. Those people, feeling richer, go out and buy new BMWs and book luxury vacations. The money starts to circulate. The car dealer and the resort owner, seeing this new demand, inch their prices up. Then they spend the money, and it flows to the restaurant owner, who pays his waiters. With every single transaction, the money moves further away from the fire hose, and prices get a little higher. The money is like a hot potato, losing a bit of its purchasing power at every single pass. Finally, months or even years later, where does that money end up? It ends up in your paycheck. You, the teacher, the nurse, the plumber, the retiree on a fixed pension. You are the last person in line. You finally get your 3% cost of living raise, but you walk into a world where your rent is already up 20%, your groceries are up 30%, and the house you wanted to buy has doubled in price. You got the new money, but only after it had been devalued by everyone else. You were robbed, and you didn't even know it. The Cantillon Effect is the mechanism. It is a silent, invisible tax on the poor and the middle class to subsidize the asset-owning rich. It is the single greatest driver of wealth inequality in our society. So, if this system is so destructive, if it's this giant vampire squid on the face of the working class, Why on earth do we do it? Why can't the Fed just turn off the fire hose? The answer is terrifying. They can't. The entire global financial system is addicted to it, and to stop now would mean total collapse. Here's why. The United States government is not just in debt. It is in debt to a number that is no longer comprehensible. Over $34 trillion. That's before we even count the unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicare, which push the real number over $100 trillion. That debt is never going to be paid back, not in the traditional sense. The government only has 3 ways to deal with this. 1, it could default. Just say, sorry, we're not paying. This would be political and financial suicide, ending the dollar's reign overnight. 2, it could dramatically raise taxes on everyone. Also political suicide, and it would crash the economy. So that leaves option 3, the secret option. The one they have been using for decades, inflate the debt away. This is the soft default. The government borrows $1 today, when that dollar can buy a loaf of bread. Then, over the next 30 years, it intentionally creates inflation, devaluing the currency. When it finally pays you back that dollar, 30 years from now, that same dollar can only buy a crumb. It paid you back, technically, but it paid you back with money that is functionally worthless. Inflation is a stealth tax. It is a way for the government to default on its obligations to you, its creditors, without ever having to say it's defaulting. You, as a saver of dollars, are the one footing the bill for the government's multi-trillion-dollar spending habits. This is why they need inflation. This is why their target is always 2%. It's not 0. They want your money to lose value. And this is why they fear deflation, falling prices, more than anything else. In a world drowning in debt, deflation is a death spiral. If prices and wages fell, all that debt would become harder to pay back. The system would implode. The Fed is trapped. It has to keep inflating to manage the debt, but if it inflates too much, it risks hyperinflation and destroying the currency completely, like in Venezuela or Weimar Germany. They are walking a tightrope, and they are starting to wobble. This brings us to the climax, the single most important financial lesson of your life. If you've followed me this far, you now understand that the system is designed to punish you for doing the very thing your parents told you to do: save your money. Saving cash in a bank account is not a safe activity. It is a guaranteed loss. You are willfully holding a melting ice cube. You are on the losing side of the Cantillon Effect. The game is rigged. So what's the solution? You have to stop playing their game. You have to escape the currency. The only way to win a game that is designed to destroy cash is to not hold cash. Your goal must be to trade your infinitely printable, constantly devaluing dollars for scarce assets that cannot be created with a keystroke. You must move from being a saver to being an owner. You have to get on the other side of the Cantillon Effect. What are these assets? First, hard assets. The classic example is real estate. Why? You can't print more land in downtown Austin. You can't print more beachfront property in California. The supply is limited. When the fire hose of new money floods the economy, it has to go somewhere, and it chases this limited supply. Prices rise. Even better, when you take out a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, you are playing the game in reverse. You are borrowing expensive dollars today, and you get to pay that loan back over 30 years with cheaper and cheaper dollars as inflation eats away at your debt. You are using the system's own weapon against it. Second, productive assets. This means stocks, but not just any stocks. You want to own businesses that have pricing power. Ask yourself this: when the cost of steel, plastic, and labor goes up, can Apple still raise the price of the new iPhone? Yes. When the cost of sugar and aluminum rises, can Coca-Cola raise the price of a can of Coke? You bet they can. They pass the inflation directly on to the consumer. Owning a piece of these businesses means your profits and dividends rise with inflation. You are sheltered from the storm. Third, sound money. This is gold. For 5,000 years, gold has been the ultimate protection against currency debasement. Why? It's scarce. It's durable. And it cannot be created by a politician or a central banker. You don't own gold to get rich. You own gold so you stay rich. It is the ultimate insurance policy against a monetary system gone mad. It's the asset you own when you have zero faith in the people in charge. And finally, a new asset for the digital age, Bitcoin. The entire thesis for Bitcoin is that it is the first provably, absolutely scarce asset in human history. The code dictates that there will only ever be 21 million. Period. While the Fed and every other central bank can print infinite trillions of dollars, no one can ever create more Bitcoin. It is a direct bet against the existing system. It is a digital lifeboat, designed specifically to escape a drowning fiat currency. The point isn't that one of these is better than the others. The point is that they are all scarce. They are not cash. So let's bring it all home. Inflation is not a mysterious force of nature. It's a policy. It's a choice. It's a tax on the uninformed. It is a deliberate, if quiet, transfer of wealth from those who work for their money to those who own the assets the money chases. The system is rigged to force you to take on risk, to force you to become an investor, just to defend the purchasing power you already earned. You can be angry about it. You should be. But after being angry, you must be smart. You must take action. Stop thinking in dollars. Start thinking in assets. Stop being a saver and start becoming an owner. That is the only way to win. So, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to leave a real answer in the comments. Where did you first feel the Cantillon effect in your own life, even if you didn't have a name for it? Was it the price of your college tuition? Was it the down payment for your first home that always seemed to be just out of reach? Or was it just this year's grocery bill? Tell me your story. And if you are done being a pawn in this game, and you're ready to learn the rules that the masters play by, then subscribe to this channel. Because we are going to tear this entire machine apart, piece by piece, until you understand exactly how to make it work for you.